Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. It is a new week of the new year. We're going back to our themes, and this week's theme is the blank song, where blank can be anything as long as the song's title is the something song. And today we're going to be looking at the number song from djshadow. I don't know anything about what I'm getting into. I don't know who djshadow is. We so rarely have DJ anything on this channel, so I'm expecting some electronica music, but who knows with this community. We have so many interests reaching such far reaches of the musical realms. So let's just dive in with no expectations and see what djshadow's bringing to the table today.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breakdown, baby.
A ton of power from the synth, but it's only left hands. Any vocal that ends up being right hand, you realize just how isolating and empty that side is. And even our left hand synth is sort of center left. It's not really over here, it's sort of in front of me.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Time to go.
Now that is a wide sound sphere. It almost feels like it wraps around me. Very distorted and compressed though. That was a fun transition back to this A section. The snare shifting off of its groove-based accents to give us constant accented quarter notes that lined up with the counting. All right. Yeah, so some really neat things going on there. First thing I want to talk about though is the production. I think it's the part that stands out the most to me is unique. The main synth for our A section, as I mentioned, isn't centered and it's not to the left. It's sort of in the center left area, but it feels closer to center, or maybe it just feels further away from me instead of being perfectly moving along a spherical radius. It's kind of in that degree, but further in front of me makes it feel closer to the center. I don't know how to describe it. It's really interestingly placed, especially since there's only three things going on. We have this synth thing, we have the drums which are everywhere, and we have our vocals which are consistently and constantly being panned all around to different places, not just across the the 180 degrees in front of me, but also distance wise as well. Sometimes they feel further away on one side, sometimes they feel really close on another side. It's it creates almost another layer to the music. Typically we talk about rhythm, which is the phrasing of a line, and pitch creates melody. But this is almost a spatial element of composition where it feels like there's movement. It almost feels like a melodic line is being created by just the timbre differences from the distancing of all of this as well as the panning. It all creates something that, at least to me, is very bizarre. Not that it's objectively strange, but that I have a difficult time really latching onto it because it's so far outside of my typical listening. And that's primarily because nothing really is where I expect it to be. For instance, there at the end, I was really enjoying that drum solo. It played around with some really neat, rather basic rhythms that delayed or sped up the almost the gratification of accented beats. Kind of give us a rhythm and then deny an accent that we were expecting and give it to us half of a beat later or a beat later to create tension and release through rhythm rather than through chord progression and note choices. It's a really great drum solo. And then the production was something I started to pay attention to, and I realized that the drum kick is flat, not tonally, but just sonically. It's just a very dry, non-resonant thud. And for some reason, it's panned hard left. What? And it immediately takes me out of the moment, and that is nothing on the music. That is entirely on the biases and subjective ideas I bring to the table when I listen to this. It is what I look for or expect in music based on what I've listened to prior in my life. And because of that, it's so foreign the way that the sound sphere is used in this track, the placement of ideas, the placement of sounds. Every time I'm getting into the music, the production throws me a curveball, and I'm left pondering. Why'd they do that? Well, what choice? What decision went into that? What made them want to place it here instead of here? Why didn't they want to fill the space? Why did they choose to keep an isolated sound here? And again, that's nothing against the music. That's stuff I'm bringing to the table, and that I've got to wrestle with and kind of work around. We all have our expectations with music, and getting outside of those comfort zones is key to exploring more music and expanding one's tastes. And this is definitely a bit outside of my boundaries, and it's pushing some of my preconceived notions about, well, standards of music production typically. But I had to point it out. It is what stands out to me most about this track, especially given its rather sparse yet energetic music. We spend out of our 4.5 minutes, three and a half in our A section. There isn't a lot of variation here. We have our, what is this, a break beat in the drums? Is that what it's called? It reminds me of Massive Attack. Not sonically, but the type of rhythm that's being utilized. And it has these varying accented hits that create a really strong element of groove with an emphasis on snare hits, frequent snare hits, and a hi-hat. And I really dig it. That's what this style of drumming is really good at, is groove, and it excels here. It's just something you can easily just kind of gently move your body to. It's nothing that really excites, but it is electric. It's not something that feels dull, but it's not something that makes you want to jump around or dance or like, headbang or anything. It's a subtle movement that it injects in my body, at least my experience with this sound. It's a bit chill and laid back. Next to that, we have a stack of synthesizers, of just electronic sounds, and that's our. It's not. I can't even call it a chord. It's just a note most of the time, or it is a chord possibly. I honestly don't know. It wasn't until the end, like I had my hunches that it was more than one sound, but at the end we start to hear some of the layers peel back, but it's not necessary that those layers were there from the start. So I don't know 100%, but I'm going to call it a stack. And I don't know if they're separate notes. I don't know if it's technically a chord or a bunch of layered sounds on a single tone. Because honestly, there's just so much production going on it that I only hear one tone, but that doesn't mean there's only one tone there. But anyways, we have the sound. It just exists for quite a bit of this track. It doesn't move. I think there was one part where I actually heard the tone drop, maybe a half step or so, and I think it came back up, but I don't remember. There's so little movement to it. And so we have this static electric sound on the left. We have the static drums everywhere. They're panned all over the place. And then we have this chaotic vocal line. It's samples, I think. All the vocals sounded different to my ear, but similar. I don't know if there was pitch correction going on. Maybe there's timbre adjustment. Maybe there's some production stuff to kind of line it all up and make it a bit more cohesive. But I am fairly certain that there's at least 3 or 4 different voices here, and that's what makes me think it's sampled. I could be wrong, and if I am, please let me know in the comments as usual. But if it is samples, the producer, who I assume is djshadow, does a fantastic job of tying it all together, giving it a similar sonic identity from start to finish, where they sound like they should go together, even though I'm sure if you took the raw clips back to back, they would not. Background noise, timbres, the colors of microphones, not like the color of the microphone, but like the way that it colors the voice, right? Recording equipment is also going to color a voice. Everybody's voices are different. Like, there's a lot of things that go into differentiating sonically different recorded situations, samples in this case. And they all come together in a way that feels cohesive, almost like they could be somebody singing them all, or maybe a couple of somebody singing them all in a way that feels like samples. I don't know. It's interesting. Like I said, it's impressive either way. Either they created something that sounds like samples, or they took a bunch of samples and molded them all to fit together. Either way, I'm impressed with the vocal work here. The lyrics I picked up were all numbers though, so that's also what makes me think it's samples, like just grabbing, they counted down from, counted up 5, 6, 7, 8 in this song. Well, let's snag that. Well, they counted 1, 2, 3 in this song. Let's snag that. And it's just like this collection of times when people counted in songs. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know if that's accurate. Um, but they take all these, and not only do they mold them to where they sound like they fit together, but they are consistently dancing around, which I talked about earlier. But sometimes you'll have a 1 and then a 2 and then a 3 and then a 7 and then like some stuff behind me, and just like it's bouncing all over the place so quickly. And I think there's parallel lines at one point where there's two samples going off at the same time, and they're counting in different like rhythms. Some are downbeats, some are offbeats, and like we're getting this ping-ponging effect. It's neat in a sort of layered, hocketed, rhythmic kind of way. It's a lot of information going off at one time that feels cohesive, even if a lot of it is disparate on multiple levels. We get to the B section though. This was weird. We abandoned where we were before. We went for a more straight drum pattern, and I don't remember what instruments, but it was a wider arrangement of instruments. Um, and it wasn't just the voices with this electronic sound. There was something going on here, and I wish I could remember what it was. Honestly, again, the production just stands out so much to me. The thing about this section is that the sound explodes, where the sound sphere was right around here, and sounds are dancing all over the place. This opens up and begins to wrap around my head. I swear I heard instruments behind me. And we moved to this wider sound sphere with a more narrow, less groovy drum style with an emphasis on melody over rhythm. We completely upended the song, flipped it over, went for the opposites on so many concepts, and we were only there for like 30 or 40 seconds, and the sound sphere shrinks in upon itself. The drum beat comes back, the groovy breakbeat style. That synthesizer tone rises back up, and we get back the counting voices. I don't remember if they were actually gone in the bridge, but whatever. They're there at the end. And of course, the outro, we strip the layers off of that um, synth sounds, and the drums get to do this extended solo, which I really liked, just on the concept of variation and delayed gratification through rhythmic pattern. So I think I have a decent understanding of the individual sections of this song, but I don't understand how they all come together. I have no idea what it's about, and I don't think that when we get to the lyrics, it's going to shed much light, because what I heard was just people counting. um, but yeah, it's an interesting song. It does some cool things moment to moment, but what's going on here? Where does the B section come to? How does it relate to our A section? Why do we get a drum solo to take us out instead of somewhere else in the track? What's with the production? It's a very specific, unique production type. I just have a lot of questions that I can't answer with this one. I was going to pause it to look at the lyrics. I probably should. There's a bit more lyrics than I thought, but I think we're good. It's not all counting down. We do start off the track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, breakdown, baby. We get come on and get with it, 1, 2, 3, 4, hit it. This is the number song, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a lot of repetition of just listen to this. Just listen to this. And maybe I was paying more attention to the music at this point, which makes sense, we'd be at the beginning of the song. After this point, there is a lot more counting. 1, 2, 3, and 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Come on and get it. 1, 2, 3, hit it. Who's got the number? Yeah, I don't know. I seriously have nothing here. It just seems to be a mishmash of a lot of ideas, and maybe that's just the general purpose of it. It doesn't have a larger concept or metaphor or theme in mind. And that's perfectly fine. It leaves me wanting more though. If that's what's going on here, at least in this case, it's like I mentioned about the music, it's an interesting concept and there are neat moments, but as a whole, I don't know. Those are my thoughts on DJ Shadow's is the number song. What do you think of this one though? Did you enjoy it? Anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Let me know in the comment section. Above that is a description box. We got a link in there for Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. Has links for everything related to the menu, everything related to the channel. Multiple ways to support the channel, a link to the music I've made, a link to the Discord community, so many more other links. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. We got a special selection coming up next. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. We'll continue on with this week's theme and check out another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.